We can use the envelope tool to create a text frame from existing figures. We already know how to edit the shape of a text frame with the envelope tool. Switch to envelope tool. We also know that when we select the text tool and click under the figure's path, a text frame shaped like this figure will be automatically created. We can also select the figure before importing the text into the document. This way, imported text will be automatically placed in a text frame shaped the same as the selected object. Let's now learn another technique. Select the bottom text frame and delete it. Select the remaining text frame and switch to envelope tool. Now the property bar is filled with the envelope tool options. Remember that the property bar is not the only place where we can find these options. When we use tools like envelope, the effects of our actions can be seen on the screen in real time. This feature is true for all interaction tools. We can also use the so-called dockers. Go to Window menu, then Dockers, and click on Envelope. This docker contains the same elements as the property bar when we choose the envelope tool. The only difference is that after we do something, we need to click Apply. We won't use these dockers for now. It's just a useful thing to know. All dockers can be activated by going to the Window menu and accessing the Dockers submenu. Select the text frame and switch to Envelope tool. Now we'll talk about the Create Envelope from icon. Click on this icon. Now move your cursor over the tree figure and click on it. As you can see, the text frame shaped like the tree figure was created, but there's no text in it. To place text in the new text frame, we need to click on it twice. Let's go back and revise the entire process. Press Ctrl Z several times. Select the text frame and switch to Envelope tool. Click on the Create Envelope From icon and select the figure. As you can see, the text frame was created, but it's empty. To place the text, click once on the text frame's path. As you can see, we've successfully placed the text in this frame. The text was moved to a new frame and the old rectangular frame disappeared. So, this is another way in which we can create a text frame out of a figure. Press Ctrl Z. Click on the bottom middle handle and draw another rectangular frame. Now switch to the Ellipse tool and draw a circle. Let's draw another circle. Now, select both figures and weld them together by clicking the Weld icon. We already know that we can modify the shape of the text frame by selecting the Envelope tool and dragging this node left. Now the text frame fits the overall composition. Reset the shape of the text frame. Now we'll try to change its shape in a slightly different way. Click on the figure with the right mouse button. Well, let's move the figure over here and see the whole menu. Click on the figure with the right mouse button and look for the Wrap Paragraph Text option. I've moved this figure because the menu went off my screen. You don't have to do this if your screen or resolution is bigger. So let's do it again. Click on the figure with the right mouse button and select the Wrap Paragraph Text option. Now, text placed in the text frame will automatically move away from our figure. So if we would move it far enough, the text will be wrapped around our figure. Let's now talk about a new element, Object Properties. Click on the figure with the right mouse button and select the Object Properties option. A docker will appear on the right side of the program's window. As you can see, this docker contains a large amount of information about our figure. Let's go to the Summary tab. We can also select it right here. Collapse the Outline section and expand the Summary section. Here we can see the distance between the text and our figure. From this drop-down menu we can choose various types of text wrapping. To see this effect better, let's duplicate our figure. Downscale the copied figure and place it at the centre of the text frame. Let's now select the None option from this drop-down list. Let's try another option, Flows Left. So, now you can clearly see how these options work. Choose each option one by one to see how all of them work. Well, let's select the Straddle Text option. So, now we know where we can change the text wrap options. But sometimes we can't set these options for our project and we still need to wrap the text around it. There's an easy solution for this problem. We create an extra object which will move the text away from our figure. Draw a circle. Select it and choose Straddle Text option from the drop-down menu. Now we can use this extra figure to move the text away from our locked object. To make it invisible, we can delete the outline for this extra figure. To do that, click on this icon with the right mouse button. Of course, the object is still there. When we switch to wireframe, we can see it just fine. We'll try to avoid situations in which we need to use such objects, but sometimes there's just no other option. I like to call this extra figure a blind object. We can now use this blind object to move the text away from our main figure. So now we know how to use and change the paragraph text wrap options. Press Shift and F4. We already know how to place photos in our document and convert these figures into clipping masks. But let's try to do it slightly differently. Select all figures. To do that, select one figure, hold Shift and click on the rest of the figures one by one. Go to the Effects menu and then Power Clip. As you can see, the Create Empty Power Clip Frame option isn't active, but there's a way to convert these figures into empty frames at the same time. Go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Now go to the Effects menu, then Power Clip and click on Create Empty Power Clip Frame. The last action we need to do is to ungroup these figures. Go to Arrange menu and click on Ungroup. Go to File menu and click on Import. We're doing this in such a strange way because we want to learn as much about CorelDraw features as possible. Thanks to this, we'll be able to use the software better and quicker. Go to the File and click on Import. Select some random photos and then click on Import. Place all the photos in a document. Just draw a box and then the photo will be placed with the size that we've drawn. Of course, we're assuming that all photos were prepared before we make our project. Let's now talk briefly about importing photos. These photos we're seeing are now copies of the original files. They're no longer connected with the original files. We can edit them in whatever way we want. When we save our project in CDR file, we don't have to worry that we've changed something in the original photos. But it's possible to link these photos to original files. We'll talk about it in a minute. But let's first place all photos in these empty frames. Just drag a photo and drop it over the empty frame. As you can see, all figures are empty frames now. How can we deduce that? The empty frames have a big X over them. In programs like CorelDraw, a frame which is crossed is a photo clipping mask. When a frame isn't crossed, it means that we can place text in it. Of course, we already know how this little power clip toolbar works. Let's make a small experiment. Draw a rectangle. Go to File menu and click on Import. Select a random photo and click on Import. Place the photo by clicking once on an empty space. Let's now learn another way to create a clipping mask. Click on the photo with the right mouse button. Hold this button and drag the photo onto the rectangle. As you can see, the cursor changed into a crosshair. Release the mouse button now. We'll talk about this toolbar. Extend the list hidden under the black triangle and click on Center Contents icon. As you can see, the photo was centered inside the clipping mask. Let's now try the next option. The photo was proportionally downscaled to fit the clipping mask. Click on the Fill Frame Proportion option. The whole frame is filled, but the photo is still scaled proportionally. The last option is the most dangerous one. Click on the Stretch Contents to fill frame. The photo filled the frame, but it was scaled disproportionately. So we can use these options to change the position of the photo placed inside the clipping mask. Select this frame and delete it. Press Shift and F4 to fit our page onto the screen. As you probably remember, the Snap to Guidelines option is still active, so we won't have any problems to draw a rectangle as big as a page. Just select the rectangle tool and draw it. But we'll do it differently. So how can we create such a rectangle if the Snap option and Guidelines aren't active? Click twice on the rectangle tool icon. The program automatically created a rectangle which is as big as the document's page. Select the rectangle and change its colour to yellow. As you can see, this rectangle was placed on the very bottom under all the other objects. Delete the rectangle's outline. We can do that by clicking the No Outline option placed on the Pen Tool icon menu by clicking the icon with the right mouse button. Let's now talk about the very last tool on this left toolbar. The Interactive Fill tool. This icon has two elements in it, Interactive Fill tool and Mesh Fill tool. We won't use the Mesh Fill tool now, we'll talk about it later. Select the Interactive Fill tool. Click on or outside of the figure. Hold the mouse button, move the cursor to the bottom right corner of the rectangle and release the mouse button. As you can see, we've created a nice gradient for our figure. We can now edit this gradient effect by moving and scaling this line. Icons on both ends of this line represent the starting and ending of the gradient colour. so we can move the gradient by just dragging this line. Let's now drag this line a little up or down. This changes how fast the yellow colour will change into white colour. Let's say that we want to add more colours to this gradient. To do that, click twice on this line. As you can see, a new colour icon was created. As you can see, it now has a white outline. This means that it's selected. Select a colour from the right palette. We can also move this square up or down this line. Let's add another colour. Click twice to add a new container and click on it once to select it. Set the colour to orange. Let's do it again. Click twice to add a new colour and click once on the container to select it. If we want to change the existing colour, we need to first select a container and then choose a new colour from the palette. We can also move these colours by dragging these squares up or down. Select this square and change the gradient colour. Select the last square. Change its colour to red. We can also change the type of this gradient. Expand this drop-down list and select a radial type gradient. Let's move the first colour to the top left corner and the last colour to the bottom right corner. We can also edit the colours in the middle. To do that, just drag these squares. To move the whole gradient, just drag the gradient direction line. Let's now learn how to delete one of these colours. The only colours we can't delete are the last and the first colour. The only thing we can do is change them. Let's delete the yellow colour. To do it, click twice on this yellow square. So that's how the interactive fill tool works. As you can see, we can also choose colours from this drop-down list. What's more, we can just access the whole CMYK palette. Select a random colour and click OK. Play with these colours for a while. Select each square and then change its colour. We can choose a colour from this drop-down list, or we can click More and access the whole CMYK palette. Here we can switch to Model selection, and then we can choose any colour we want. Let's now create the last element of our project, bleed limits. We create them when we prepare a file for the print house. It's most popular in offset printing. This method is used for printing large amounts of copies. So when the bleed limit is created, the guillotine cuts it off. Since this is a flyer and we would print many copies, we need to create bleed limits. Go to Arrange menu, then Transformations, and click on Size. Activate the Proportional option. We don't really need to create extra guidelines. We'll just make the background a little bigger. Add 0.125 to Y value. 8.263 plus 0.125 is 8.523. Change the Y value to this number. Click on Apply button. The bleed limit is ready. But what about these figures? Well, it's best to change their outline to 0 or to move them. Click on the side to deselect all figures. Let's change the nudge value. Change it to 0.125. Select the photo and use the arrow keys to move it outside the page. Do the same thing with the other two objects. So this is the best way to do it. Just remember to create a bleed limit and make sure that other elements aren't too close to the edge of the page. Our flyer is ready. Press Ctrl S to save the changes.